And finally, we're getting to that last section, the enhanced accountability and transparency section, which covers the company secretary, auditors, and audit committee. So we'll do the company secretary first, which is sections 86 to 89. Because it's only a level 2, I'm not going to go into the Companies Act, but these are the key points you must highlight. First of all, a public and a state-owned must appoint a company secretary. Okay, so it's not compulsory for private, but these two must. And the company secretary must have the requisite knowledge and be an SA resident. Now, they don't give us information on that knowledge, but they do give us the duties. So with those duties, we can surmise as to what their knowledge is. If there's a vacancy, they have to fill it within 60 days. Guys, a vacancy could come as a result of resignation or termination. If it's resignation, the company secretary must give 1 month's notice for that resignation. Okay, in terms of their duties, they're all about knowing the laws and regulations. So if that's the key, they must be aware of the laws and they must make sure that the directors are aware of the laws that affect the company so that the business can run lawfully. They need to provide guidance to the directors as to their duties and responsibilities, so they're almost a helping hand towards these directors. They will keep minutes at meetings, and they need to certify in the financials whether the company has filed all notices and returns. So they will be responsible for ensuring the filing of those notices and returns as required by the Companies Act. Okay, let's move into the auditors. Section 90 to 93 covers the auditors, and it states here that public and state-owned must appoint an auditor as well as if they qualify in terms of the public interest score. So we've already looked at that, 350 or more if they are externally prepared or internally prepared more than 100 points. Then it goes on to explain that the auditor must be independent. And it gives examples of what the auditor cannot be, which would then render it not independent. So you cannot be a director or an employee of the business or someone who prepares the financial statements of the company. And in addition to that, you cannot be related to any of those persons. So your section 2 and 3 related now plays a part in who the auditors can and cannot be. It then states that the auditors need to be reappointed at the AGM, so that means every year they will have to reappoint or appoint new auditors. However, if the auditors resign during the year, in which case there's a vacancy, that needs to be filled within 40 days of that vacancy taking place. The process they will follow now is that the board will have 15 days to nominate someone or propose that person. Then the audit committee has 5 days to reject that person or that nomination. But guys, look at that. That's 20 days in totality, and the vacancy needs to be filled within 40 days. So if they're going to use the 15 days to propose and the 5 to reject, they really can only do this twice. Okay guys, remember this is fulfilling a vacancy during the year. Otherwise, the vacancies are fulfilled at the end of the year at the AGM. The last thing I want to point out here is that it says the same individual cannot serve for more than 5 consecutive years without taking a 2-year break before coming back. And that's obviously to maintain independence. So this is your rotation of auditors. It's not audit firm, it's the specific partner. This rule becomes stricter because they say that as soon as you have served 2 or more years, you will need to take a 2-year break before coming back if you want to serve another 5-year period. Otherwise, If you take just the 1 year break, you still are working within those 5 consecutive years, even though they're not consecutive because you've taken 1 year. So what they're saying is, unless you break for 2 years, once you have served 2 years, you cannot then serve for another 5 years after that break. Let's go into the Companies Act where you can see all of these points. Section 90, appointments of the auditor. It says, each year at the annual general meeting, a public or state-owned must appoint an auditor. Then it says, if you meet those requirements, public or state-owned, or if you choose to have your financials audited, then at incorporation, that's when you need to have an auditor appointed. Or if at incorporation you don't meet those requirements but you do at a later stage, then at the annual general meeting that you meet those requirements. Who must not be? So all of these are the points that affect independence. So you cannot be if you are a director or an employee, or if you are the company secretary, or a person who performs the accounting or bookkeeping duties. And then if you are any of those within the 5 years before becoming the auditor, you cannot be an auditor, or if you are related to any of these people. C says the audit committee must find this person acceptable, and then you must appoint the first auditor within 40 days, thereafter at the annual general meeting, so everything we've discussed. And the last point, if it isn't at the AGM, the directors must appoint within 40 days. Section 91, resignation. The board must appoint a new auditor within 40 days. Section 3 tells us how. They must propose to the audit committee within 15, and they have 5 days to reject the proposal. Section 92, rotation of auditors. The same individual cannot serve for more than 5 consecutive years. And then below it says here that if you have served for 2 or more consecutive years, then you need to have 2 years in order for your next consecutive 5-year period to commence. Okay, rights and duties. They have the right of access to information, to attend meetings, to receive notice of those meetings, and be heard at those meetings. Okay, audit committee. Section 94. All public and state-owned must appoint an audit committee. So now in your reading time, when you see that it is public or state-owned, you must have auditors, audit committee, company secretary. The audit committee must comprise of a minimum of 3 directors who are independent, non-executive. It doesn't state that. It just states that they must have directors, but it says they must not be involved in the day-to-day running. And so that's how we get independent, non-executive director from the Companies Act. The duties, they must nominate. So this would be at the AGM, because remember, if there's a vacancy, it's the board who nominates and they get to reject. And then they must determine the fee for the auditors. They need to ensure that the auditors are independent, and so when it comes to the non-audit services, they cannot impact on their independence. So they get to determine those. They must ensure that they comply with the Act, and then they have financial duties to do with those financial statements. They must make sure there's appropriate disclosures, that the financials are transparent and financially sound. Let's go into the Companies Act. Section 94. At the annual general meeting, public, state-owned, and any other company that's chosen to have an audit committee must appoint an audit committee who must comprise of at least 3 members. Okay, then it goes in to explain that each member must be a director, but must not be involved in the day-to-day management, or an employee or material supplier, or related to any of the above, because all of these affect independence. Okay, and so we can see here that it is ultimately an independent, non-executive director that is being requested. If there's a vacancy, it must be filled within 40 business days of that vacancy arising, so just the same as your external auditor. The audit committee must nominate the auditor, determine the fee, ensure compliance with the Act in appointing, determine any non-audit service fees. They must approve proposed agreements. They have to prepare a report that deals with the audit committee's functions as well as the auditor's independence. Okay, and they have an oversight function that they need to perform with regards to the board.